Alright, so this is my split wing CDC yellow Cahill. I've got some GSP 30 denier from Vivas. This is a size 12 hook. I'm just going to start about a half bodkin width behind the eye. Wrap halfway back. And then about halfway forward. I want to leave a little extra room on the front for extra hackle. It's loosely based off a wolf, so I'm going to put the wings in first. So I've got some CDC that I dyed. It's in the color of Yosemite. That's a RIT dye color. I'm going to take two of these, concave side facing one another and facing out on the opposite side. Tie them in about 3 times. I'm going to get a pair of stiff scissors and use these as a caliper to gauge my wing. And I tie this in on the far side, and then I'll tie the near one in. It's a little easier, at least for me, to separate these one at a time. So one wrap over the top, one wrap in front. And now, just like you would do a split wing, I put about 3 or 4 turns in. One on the back down, one on the front down, and then I've got my split wing. I can adjust it out to the side if I need to. I'm going to put the other set in now. And right about there is good. One back over to the back, a couple in front. Now I can come up and separate my near side wing. It's much easier to do this with CDC up front. If you wait until you've already started doing the back and everything, they can really get in your way. Now I'm gonna bring my scissors kind of over the top and split in between the two. Lift up my CDC. I'm gonna put my needle point there where I want it to stop, roughly. And then I save these because you can use them for emergers and stuff. And next I'm going to wrap back. Getting in a nice slope. Okay, I'm going to go to the barb. Yeah, those are looking about right. I do a double tail on these. The bottom tail is just some microfibbits in yellow. I take, I don't know, 6 or 7, something like that. For the bottom tail, make sure they're aligned pretty well. I mean, they don't got to be perfect here. The whole thought process here is that this bottom tail will help support the top tail. I want this about 1.5 to 2 times the length of the shank. And then I'll just use my scissors to kind of gauge if I'm right in there. That's pretty close. And I'm going to place a few wraps going forward. And then before I go any further, I want to start to splay these out a little bit. They don't have to be perfect, just so they're out. Keep wrapping forward a little bit. Come in here and I cut these off tight behind the wing. And we'll wrap that in. Then what I'll do is I'll take my bodkin and some super glue, and I'm going to glue those fibbits in place. So just a drop on my bodkin, and then I kind of run it across the top, just barely into it. You can lift up if the glue starts to run on you, draw it forward, and then I kind of pull it out and push underneath. Let that set just a little bit. You want to make sure that you kind of open these up towards the back or they'll all glue together. And then as that's drying, I'm going to grab my rib. The rib I'm using is just dark brown 8/0 uni thread. And I just pull out like 10 inches or so. And then I'll wrap it underneath my thread, draw to the back so that my tips are about even. I keep this on the underside. And yeah, just to the back. Actually, I'm going to bring this back up just a fuzz. Then what else I'll do is I'll put some super glue on the rib. I'll twist the thread and then wipe my fingers down the thread just to create one solid rib. It'll glue it together. You give it a second and you can put it in a clip behind you and save it for later when we're ready for it. Okay, now I'll come to the back. Next I'm using some lemon wood duck, or barred lemon wood duck as they say, for my top tail. And I'll just pull some off the side. And I just make these the same length or just short. And I try to get them to lay kind of in between those CDC wings with a couple of loose wraps over going forward. And if you do it just right, they'll just splay open for you and kind of surround and fall in between the fibbits, providing some extra tail and some coloration. And now I'll bring that forward. And again, I'm going to cut this out right behind the wing. Let me get that to stand up just a little bit. Okay. And if you want them open a little bit more, now's a good time to do a couple figure 8 cross wraps. Kind of position them and then wrap back. Then to help keep these in position, there we go. You kind of want one tail on top of the other like that. And then to help keep these in position, I'll add just a very, very small amount of glue in between the wings. You got to be really careful doing this with the CDC because it'll absorb. Don't flip your fly over to do this. You want any of that glue going down, not up. But you can kind of get those miniature posts or slim posts to really take shape and hold there. Next, I've just got this custom dubbing blend. It's like 1 part Antron, yellow Cahill, and 1/5 part tan ice dub, and that's all it is. And just get a little bit off of there. Dub this on. Alright, and I'll get a turn or so over start to tighten it up. I'll try to keep that noodle thin and keep twisting so that I can build a taper into the fly, at least a little bit. That's good. And I'm going to bring my thread to the front side. Now I'm going to take my rib. And I try to get, 4, maybe 5 turns. And these don't have to be perfect. I'll get one right behind in that little void, which we're going to fill in a minute. Then I want to jump this forward, wrap it in front of my thread, sink my thread around underneath, and then I'll tie this guy off going backward underneath. And then that rib is good and locked in with a little reverse course action. I'm going to bring my thread back forward. I'm going to get my hackle. I'm just using a silver badger here. I'm just going to prep it dry fly style with pulling some off each side, taking an extra 1/8 of an inch or so off my tie side or my shank side that I'm wrapping towards. And I'm going to tie this in and then line up my barbs right there at the back. Trying to avoid all that CDC. Right at the back where that taper is, so that when I start wrapping over, should pretty much start going right away. If you got any extra stem, cut it out now up front. For the under thorax, or the thorax itself, I'm going to use some Ice Dub Peacock Black. You don't need very much. Very little is fine here. And you can kind of taper this fly however you want. If you want it thinner or whatever, that's up to you. We'll get it started with a turn over. Once I have about 2 or 3 wraps in, I'm going to come and figure 8 through my wing. Leaving it on the back side, or bring it back to the back side. I'm going to pull my wings to the rear and start to dub this guy going forward. Kind of using this ice dub to pick up the slack and make it more of an even taper here. But you can do what you want here. Okay, I'm going to leave just enough room for my head. I'm going to switch threads for my head. You can trim this ice dub out. I usually just kind of leave it, let it flutter around or whatever, but that's up to you. Okay, so next we're looking to get 2 or 3 turns of the hackle here in the back. For me, it's when I start to see that my wings are getting pushed forward. That's when I'll make the jump. When I come underneath, I cut my hackle at an angle forward to where the front side of the wing is, like that. Lift up, pull over, and then it should lift your wings back straight up top. And I'm going to come right up front. Just going to cross my thread over. Kind of collect everything and draw it to the back. Kind of building up that head. Maybe cross the hackle one more time. There we go. Good enough. It ripped off. Okay, just got this little guy up front. Let's take care of that. Next, to finish the head, I'm going to switch over to shear 14-0 in yellow. And I'm just going to tie on right here. And I try to take care of any loose ends up front first before I start wrapping back. And then I'll wrap back and finish the head in the back. Swing it around my GSP. Pull them both up and out of the way. Kind of clean that up a little bit. Oh. So that's why I try to stay at the back. That's because it'll just slide off. Okay, there we go. It's up to you how you want to finish here. You can, a lot of the times I'll wet whip right here. But for this, I'm just going to put in. It slid on me. About 3 or 4 turns. Pull that guy tight. And once again, go back to my super glue and just put a little dab right up top where I wet whip, or where I whip finish. Maybe around the sides a little bit. Kind of pull everything forward as that glue's drying. Make sure it all kind of sets up the way you want. And that's it. A double tail CDC Cahill. You could do this totally in, you can make an Adams this way if you wanted to, or whatever, dry fly, Drake or whatever. Suit yourself. So happy tying, everybody. We'll see you later.